All right, well, we are here in Lapland, Finland, and we're in the middle of an epic adventure, and a trip that's focused on conservation and climate change. So I'm in my third year here doing my project called Shuttershock, and special thanks to all of my sponsors, which I will link in the description below. And basically my project is centered around getting the word out about climate change through my photography and conservation. And this year, I am fortunate enough to have the amazing Amanda on the trip with me, and she has been my second photographer and also my source of a lot of laughs and fun on this trip, which has been really necessary because a lot of time passes sometimes in these Arctic places, and it's a lot of loneliness and isolation. So this has been such a nice trip to have her here, and and you've taught me.
Very, very, very fortunate to come.
Yeah, it's been
time with you. It's
wonderful.
Been incredible. Yeah, it's been really amazing.
And you've been teaching me a lot of things, which is epic, about your horticulture and botany with all the background that you have. So we thought it would be really fun. Before I left, most of you know I run a music business and I teach children all day, which is wonderful, and I love it. So the kids were super excited. Not that I was leaving, I don't think, but mostly that I was going to be working with a real live Aussie, which the kids thought was really cool because we don't have a lot of Aussies near us in Florida. So when they heard that, I let them submit questions, and they also wanted to submit some questions for my YouTube channel on my project. And so we made it kind of something fun. I think I got like 300 or 400 questions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kids.
Yeah, they're super kids. Love you guys. But I had to just pick 20.
Yeah.
So, we kind of picked 20 out of a box and then just kind of went from there. And I have to say they really were very centered on, kind of what we're doing here, which is great. But they're also fun. Yeah. Really fun questions.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, so this is kind of like that Q&A everybody was asking me to film for the channel. And, but we're going to make sure it's very interesting because of your appearance today.
I'll do my best.
This is your debut on my channel, actually.
It is.
It's nerve-wracking, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, but nothing to worry about because this is very just casual. Yeah. Incredibly casual because we're sharing notes here. Okay, so tell me a little bit, or tell everybody a little bit about your background and what you do professionally back home in Ausland, and just a little bit about your background with photography.
Great. So back home, I am a horticulturalist, and also I would consider myself an activist for the environment and for conservation and really for preservation of the environment. I am also studying to become an arborist. I'm continuing my studies with that. And then after that, I actually want to formally study to become a formal conservationist and ecosystems manager. And I'm fortunate to be able to take 4 weeks off from all of those things and come over here and spend some time with Petrova and learn so much about photography and this part of the planet where she spent so much time investing in. And it's been an absolute privilege. So thank you.
No, my pleasure. It's been wonderful just getting to see your side of things. And honestly, something my project really needed was that science support, So just getting your background and your knowledge involved is humongous for me. So thank you for that. Okay, so we're going to do 10 questions here. We are in this igloo. This is an igloo. I will have some footage on it later that I will link. But it's a really cool little resort here. It's called the Reindeer Manor. Yeah. Has 10 little igloos on site, which are those traditional little igloos you see where you can see the northern lights. And we did. We got to see them.
We were so lucky.
We were running all over the place till 3 a.m. It was like a party, that had no food, no drinks, and no music. But it
was still a great party.
We had the party in our snowsuits, running around like banshees, avoiding frostbite. And and I put actually a short up on the channel of one of the videos I actually captured with my iPhone.
Incredible.
With my
footage.
iPhone.
Yeah.
So I have to tell you all out there, it is possible to capture it with your iPhone, which as a photographer, pains me to say it, but it can be done. And you've taken some epic photos, I have to say.
It's been really fun.
Yeah, epic photos as well. So so we have all those links that we'll be putting out. So so we have some questions from the students. So I'm going to start. All right. Okay. So what is the most Aussie thing you've ever done. Like, have you ever wrestled a kangaroo for your morning, well, for you it'd be your decaf coffee or your morning tea?
My morning tea. I haven't ever wrangled a roo. That's actually pretty dangerous.
Wrangled a roo.
Hey?
Wrangled a roo.
Wrangled a roo. I've never wrangled a roo, that's right. But, because they are actually really they're beautiful animals, but they can be very, very dangerous, and they can cause a lot of harm and damage. So if you do see one, give it some space, appreciate it from a bit of a distance, and then let it be on its way, because they can be quite dangerous. So I've never actually wrangled a roo, but most mornings I'm lucky enough to be able to get up and go out my front door and hit the bush pretty soon after leaving the front door and go for a bush walk. And I find lots of wildlife and lots of our native species there. So that's my interaction before I have my morning tea.
Hit the bush.
Hit the bush.
Hit the bush.
Yeah.
And go for a bush walk.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it.
Now I've got to give you a question.
Yes, and my questions are right above here. There's my questions.
Perfect. Okay. So what's the most extreme thing you've done to get the perfect shot? Hanging off a glacier, wading through a swamp, or talking sense into a politician?
Definitely not going to waste my breath on that.
No.
Sorry. I think probably my passion with volcanoes. And I've been sent a few times on assignment, which I love, to Iceland. One of my favorite places, probably the place that kind of reignited the passion to get into photography.
Yeah.
So I would have to say maybe, hanging off of a helicopter capturing the Icelandic volcano.
Wow.
It was pretty epic.
Yeah.
This last year wasn't as eruptive, because I was sent on the night of Christmas, actually, like on an 11 p.m. flight.
Oh my
yes, but it was still smoking, like, it was still very violent. And then we had 7 more eruptions over this last year with the Reykjanes Peninsula. It's very...
Wow. So completely active.
Oh, yes, it was very active. But it wasn't as the previous year when I filmed. That one was violent. I mean, lava exploding everywhere. But the interesting thing, actually, I forgot to mention, was the previous year's volcano had simmered, but it was considered done eruptively, but yet it was still smoking. Like, there was still steam.
Residual heat was still there.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
That is.
So I guess the volcanoes,
and done very safely.
Of course. Yes, of course. No, that is one thing I always make sure, safety first before taking a shot, and that is something I don't compromise on.
Yeah.
I got all these little kids to get back to, so.
Yeah.
Okay. And my own family.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so now your second question. Be honest, how many times a week do you have to check your shoes for spiders before putting them on?
Okay, so if I'm going to be really honest, I'm going to say I check my shoes every time I'm about to put them on, if I've left them outside. So I have my gardening clothes.
Outside?
Yeah, I have my trainers, and I do leave them outside.
Trainers are sneakers.
Yeah. So I will definitely check them for spiders. Yeah, I will. I mean, we have some venomous spiders, but they're fine.
We have some venomous spiders.
Yeah, no, that's okay. You grow up with knowing that they are, and you do grow up knowing to check your shoes and what have you, and yeah, it's okay. It's just a commonplace thing to do to be safe again. So yeah, I would say I do it. I would say I do it every time I go to put them on and off. Yeah.
Lovely. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the last venomous spider you saw, and where was it?
Probably a redback spider. And we had a very small sort of nest of them that was very high up on the house. So I did leave them there because I do believe in letting nature do its thing, and they are a native species, and but we sort of, they grew up and they moved on, which was great. You just got to keep an eye on them.
They move on to your house?
No, well, I don't like them being in the house, and in fact, if we find spiders in the house, I'll always capture them and then just take them outside and re-release them, particularly the very big huntsmen, because they will actually eat spiders that are smaller than them. So it's all part of the ecosystem, and it works really well.
Lovely. Okay. Yes.
But you can't wait to come back and
I can't.
have to check your shoes on a daily basis.
I just remember this one spider that I squashed on accident, and all of these tiny things came out, and now I'm thinking of, which I didn't mean to do it.
No.
But it was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
No, I'm just seeing the movie Carrie in my mind right now.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'm going to ask another question.
Yeah, let's move on.
So your next question is, have you ever had an assignment where you thought, wow, I might actually die doing this?
Yeah, we could both say that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Unfortunately, this occurred just a week or so ago or less. But I'm here. And you're here. And you're here. Yeah, we had a bit of a scare on this trip. Not our fault. Not our, and we, yeah. And I'll get into this more, but basically we were in a situation where we were being guided to photograph the elusive musk oxen, which if you do any research on, you'll realize it's an endangered species. It's only found in this one area of Norway, and it was very applicable to my project. It was something I really wanted to capture. I had actually only heard about it through you, because you were very, very passionate about the muskies. And we actually flew into Trondheim specifically to do this one big hike, and it was a commitment, definitely a commitment.
Yeah. So
we researched for over a year the right tour provider to take us there, because it is risky. I mean, musk oxen, I never like to say an animal is dangerous, but you have to be careful around them because of their natural instincts, and you don't want to be in their space. And so we weren't going to do this hike alone. We were going to do it with an expert, and we chose a company that had the top reputation and was
33 years, I believe. They'd been guiding in the area.
Exactly. And I've done 7 years of work in this area to know safety protocol. You've done, surviving in the outback, you have to. It's similar protocols.
Similar to you know what.
Yeah. We both knew, and from the onset, we were fitted for snowshoes. They were not taken. We had crampons. They were not advised, which are the spikes on your shoes. We brought food and water. They were not ever encouraged to be stopped and consumed.
Had personal locator beacon. You had a sat phone.
Yes. The person didn't even have
our own first aid kits.
The person didn't even have a knife to tighten our...
That's right.
Yeah.
Used our tools.
We had everything, but the person did not. And we found these things out too far in, right? Because we were on a day hike. It was from like a 12-hour hike, I would say. So unfortunately, these things were found as we were too far in. And I will just say that, you can trust people so far, but then you've got to use your instincts. And I didn't, because I was in unfamiliar territory, and I trusted that the guide knew better. And I think in reflecting upon this, and I will have further YouTubes on this because I really want to get the message out for safety for other people, that you've got to trust your gut, and you've got to trust your experience level, because we were basically put in a situation where I had a fall because of levels of snow, fresh snow against the ice. And anyway, going into a bad snowdrift, it kind of twisted my knee. I'm pretty strong. I just kept going. But at maybe a couple more kilometers in, I began to feel weakness, and it did cause me to fall on ice. I should have had crampons on. I should have had something more sturdy on my feet. And again, I trusted that the terrain was not fit for the crampons, because that was not advised. And we also had never stopped to eat or hydrate, even though we did. It was just, there was no guidance or no safety protocol there. It was a high elevation. There was no altitude acclimation time. Just a lot of things, because we were searching for this animal. So you kept having to go and go and go and go and go to find this animal. And by the time we found the animal, I had already pretty much torn something, maybe a meniscus in my knee, and was basically hobbling on it. And then by the time we got there and we asked, how do we get back? It was like, oh, you've got another 3-hour hike to return. There was no way I could do it. And so at that point, we were kind of stuck. Night was coming, and we needed basically a rescue. And we didn't ever anticipate this rescue was going to take 4 hours to get to us. And I think the temp, what was it, negative 10, 11, something like that? It
was negative 11 with negative 18 winds.
Yeah. And we had snowsuit and merino. We dressed for Northern Lights shooting, but having been in it all day, been slightly dehydrated and just pushed physically, and then now having an injury, it was just too much. And you fell through ice at one point too, because the terrain, it was just, I had no confidence.
We weren't guided properly either. And our guide actually kept leaving us to go and seek other advice from other guides on the mountain. And he would leave us for periods of time to go and get other supplies and other things from different guides because he was
He
so
didn't have them.
incredibly underprepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just a really poorly done guide.
Yeah.
And anyway, thank you to the Red Cross for helping to get me out.
They're extraordinary.
Yeah, because I did go into, I think, a mild shock and hypothermia. I don't remember a lot of it at the end. And but hey.
You live to tell the tale.
I live to tell the tale. That would be, I guess, honestly, up until that, nothing really was close. But I have to say that was probably the scariest. Yeah. So, very serious.
It was.
Moving on.
On to the next question. That's that one for me, I think.
Okay. So, if an American tourist asked you where to find a drop bear, how would you mess with them?
Oh, look, you could mess with them.
I know. I believe John, shout out to John, Astro John,
Yeah.
for this one. I actually
Has John
believed
done
him.
this to you?
He did, yeah.
Oh, I know.
He told me to watch out for the drop bears, but it was when I was already terrified of the snake that was coming across the path in Auslan that he did this.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, drop bears are a folklore. They're actually not real.
So you just mess with these tourists?
Well,
on purpose?
Some people do, yes. They find it funny, I suppose. But no, there's no such thing as a drop bear. Koala bears will happily sit in eucalyptus trees eating away, and they are extremely clever at supporting themselves and ensuring that they don't fall out of trees. And I recently had the pleasure of visiting a beautiful koala sanctuary with a lot of koalas that have been injured and have suffered at the hands, again, of humans, whether it be from car accident or other means, or being attacked by goannas and lace monitors. But out of all of the koalas that were there, none of them had sustained their injuries from a fall from a tree. So I don't know that the drop bear is true. I think it's a fairy tale, and I think it's Australian folklore, and I'll apologise in advance for anyone who suffers at the hands of a tormenting Aussie about it.
Wow. So they're gravitationally just a little challenged?
They are. They definitely are. They are. But they're also very, very clever. They wedge themselves in these trees, and they've got incredible claws.
Oh, they do,
that
yes.
are like hooks, and they hook into those trees, and they sleep for hours just in these positions.
They're like little Yoda bears.
They are, and they look quite precarious, but they're very...
Precarious.
Yeah, but they're very at home at sitting in those trees and making sure they don't fall out.
Okay, well, John, you and I are gonna have some words.
Yeah, you're answerable there, John.
Next time I go to Auslan, I'm gonna get you with the drop Florida alligators.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Excellent. All right.
Next question. I think I've gone to the wrong section. Sorry.
Oh,
Did you scroll that up for me? You got it ready for
me?
me?
I did, actually.
Thank
Yes.
you. Okay.
No worries.
Okay. What's the weirdest or the funniest thing you've ever said to yourself while alone in the field?
Geez, probably like, what the heck am I doing here? You know, what, probably like, what the heck am I doing here?
Questioning yourself a bit.
Yeah, why am I here? What the heck am I doing here? And often it's just like when I'm wandering, because I'll often find myself just really getting into wherever I'm at, not seeking an animal shot, more like just exploring places and wandering. And sometimes I'll get a bit lost.
Which is nice.
It is nice.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll get a little lost in nature, and I'll be like, what am I doing? Where am I? And then, it was a little bit like yesterday. I could have stayed hours just in underneath that tree.
That's beautiful.
Shooting that one tree with branches. I get very into the nature, and then I'll get my reality check and be like, what am I doing? Like, I've spent 6 hours under a tree shooting ice.
That's a great place to be.
It is. But then you get the reality check of, this is not normal.
That's okay. We like not normal.
And then you see other people come out, they take a selfie, which I never really like to do. It's not my thing. And they leave. And you're, meanwhile, 6 hours of macro photography of like all the little icicles and all this.
Yeah. And they've missed it all.
They missed all the beauty.
Yeah, I agree.
Not my thing.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not the right answer, but that probably would be my answer. It's just like my reality check, like I get out of my own head and then go, what are you doing? Like, get back to reality. I get very sucked into what I shoot, very consumed in what is in front of me in a good way.
Yeah.
But then I look at my camera roll. I'm like, why do I have 1,000 shots of an icicle? Like, it's a bit much.
I quite like that.
Yeah. Well, you might have 1,000 shots of a fungi.
Well, I do.
I know. I know. Yeah, so. All right. So yours, what are 3 fun facts about you that, well, let's just say 3 fun facts.
3 fun facts. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, one of them would be my love of fungi and macro.
You love a bit of fungi.
I do love a bit of fungi.
I think we have some in our dirty clothes over here.
Probably.
At
Gosh,
this
who
point,
knows what's going on in there. Until we get to the next destination.
They could walk off by themselves right now.
Yeah. So I do. I really love fungi. I think they're incredible. I think the fact that they're responsible for 85% of plants and trees and species that can grow on the planet, I have deep respect for something that enables that, because without that network on the planet, we would not have what we have. So I love fungi deeply. I also love moss.
Yeah, moss is beautiful.
Moss is, there's something very captivating about moss, and there's a whole little biome going on within it, which I think is extraordinary. And the other fun fact, might not be fun, but the other fun fact is
I
only drink decaf coffee, which is a bit boring.
That's very terribly boring.
It is. Yeah. But they're my
But it could be
facts.
fun if you put some flavors in it or
Possibly,
something.
yeah.
So tell me, how's the coffee up here? Is it terrible?
Look, I'm pretty spoiled because we do have a good coffee culture at home, but it's okay.
That means it's crap. Yeah, I have to say, Ausland, I got so spoiled with the flat white.
That's our favourite.
The flat white was great.
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah,
you guys have the best, I will say, the best coffee, and I've traveled.
Yeah.
Hands down.
We are very, very spoiled.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh. So on to the next one. So what's harder, getting the perfect wildlife shot or convincing people climate change is real?
Well, I never force the shot with wildlife, because if you force the shot, it doesn't look like it's real to me. And I think you've noticed that just in what we've been doing together, that I don't like over edited things. I don't. If an edit takes longer than 2 to 3 minutes, I don't bother with it. Needs to be right in camera. And same thing with wildlife. You need to capture it in its natural state. So I would say definitely the second half, the convincing people about the climate changing. People, but I think there's a lot of words that are used to politically influence or sway people's opinions that, have maybe foreshadowed people's opinions and maybe leaned people one way or the other, maybe not correctly. I think a lot of people have turned kind of deaf ears on it because they're tired of listening to people's opinions, people's words. And kind of that's where I started the grant, Shuttershock, was in that passion to eliminate talk and just get right down to the truth. What's in my frame when I'm looking through my camera lens? What is the truth that I'm seeing? Whether it was in my drone work or in video or in camera, what am I actually seeing out there? What is the Sami reindeer herder telling me? I don't edit those shots. I don't edit that footage. It's just, to me, it's convincing people that it's real. So my job is to get as much hard footage, not easy footage, but the hard truth footage as I can out there. And I've been focusing on, water or the oceans as my source of the root of the project, because obviously living in Florida, we are surrounded by water and we are in a swamp, and the water is key to really everything in the world, and the fragility of our ecosystem is all centered on the oceans. So, here in the Arctic, I kind of focused on first because they're experiencing global warming at close to 4 times the rate of anywhere in the world. And I just firsthand have been seeing it just this year coming, and seeing, like in Norway, like I said to you, I photographed the Lofoten Islands with no snow. That's the first time in 3 years. No snow. And, even here in Lapland, the snow is less this year, and the rains are heavier, more in the west, in northern Norway. But there's definitely massive change going on, and it all is impacting sea level rise, and all of those things will impact, of course, the ice and the sea melt and nature. And then, of course, you get to temperature change and how that's going to impact, like, the reefs. And, you know, if you say to somebody, oh, well, you know, each country maybe will impact or be impacted by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius, you know, at the end of, you know, these next 5 to 10 years. Most people don't say, oh, that's so dire. They say, oh, well, I could live at 82 degrees, 83 degrees. But they don't realize the impacts to the water environments, to the oceans and the heating of that. But if we lose our reefs, we're losing that ecosystem that provides so much to, it's like the heart really of our world. It provides the food and the center of everything for the world. And if the ice begins to melt here in the North Pole and even in the South Pole, it's affecting everything with sea level rise, and the land will start to, you know, be gone, and the migration of animals and even the behaviors. I could go on and on, but I would say definitely convincing people climate change is real when the truth is so very apparent.
Yeah.
So
the evidence is there. Yeah.
So watch my climate change YouTube. Very, very sad, but true.
Yeah.
All right. So what is the weirdest, have you ever had to cancel plans because a snake was blocking your front door?
I haven't had to cancel plans. I haven't. I've never had a snake across my front door. Where I live is...
Would you just move it?
I probably wouldn't move it. I'd probably just wait for it to move on itself, I think. I'd probably just observe it, make sure that it wasn't injured or damaged. It would be very unusual to have a snake across my front door. I live in quite a suburban area.
Okay.
We do get them. We certainly get them nearby, but it would be odd. So I'd be looking out to see if it had an injury perhaps, or if it was exhibiting behaviour that wasn't quite right. And I've got some friends on hand, which I'm very grateful for, who do great rescue work.
Really?
So I could certainly tap into that if I did have a snake that needed some help. Snake rescue. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I still always remember the story of the doctor on our photo tour. Do you remember? Telling us about the person that came into the emergency room with the snake bite.
Yeah.
And they had the snake in the pillow. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And then they said to the doctor, do you want to see the snake that bit me? And the snake escaped from the pillow. And she said it was the fastest that she'd ever cleared her eon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Terrifying.
Quite terrifying.
It is.
But yeah.
Yes, I've never had a snake. But the best thing with snakes anyway, most of them are really passive. Most of them are not aggressive. Right. And if you come across one, just step back, give it some space, and you'll probably find it will get out of there faster than you will. Yeah.
Yeah, unless it's a python in the Everglades. Right? Exactly.
Maybe.
Well, okay. I'll take note of that. Okay.
So your next question is, have you ever been so focused on shooting that you didn't notice a wild animal sneaking up on you?
Yes, and Aiden is probably laughing as he's listening to this because, the last time I was in the Arctic, actually, I brought Aiden, my son, and he still really, he wanted to come this time, but he couldn't miss any school. He just couldn't do it. Now he's in high school. But great memories. Yes, I was shooting in a rescue rehabilitation center up in Vardø in West Norway. And we had a guide ranger with us because there was bears and so forth. And he was sharing with us about the hibernation of these brown European bears. Have been very short this year. And it was early February, and I was observing and filming these baby bears that had already come out of hibernation. And it was just blizzard, and they were playing with sticks and rocks and random things. And as we were talking, I was kind of zooming in on this mother bear and just photographing her. And, my son was behind me, and he was like, kind of saying, Mom, watch out, there's a baby bear, And I was like, yeah, I see, I got the baby bear, kind of annoyed at him to disrupt me with this conversation and zooming in. And the ranger didn't say anything either. I guess he's, it's normal for him. And I'm zooming in, I'm shooting this thing, I'm having a conversation. I wasn't focused as I should have been on the tunneling baby bear coming at me.
Wow.
Yeah, and he tunneled all the way to my tripod and boom!
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it knocked me. Tripod, camera, Sony, all over. It was a hot mess.
Oh.
Yeah, I probably look like an absolute idiot. Anyway, we were fine. I think I scared the baby bear. more than he scared me.
Yeah,
And
often the case.
There was
isn't
some interesting words that came out of my mouth at that moment.
it? Change the audio on that one a little bit.
Yeah, because I was filming that little part of it, and Aiden and we watched that clip so many times laughing. I was fine. I just felt really stupid that I hadn't noticed. It was on me, right?
Oh, I don't know. Things happen.
But it was funny. Now I laugh at it because all you see on camera is big paws on my screen, and then this push of the camera.
I want to see the footage.
I'll have to find it for you because I still have it.
Yeah.
But nobody else is seeing it. Yeah. So that, I guess that would probably be that'd be it.
Yeah. Okay.
Moving on. Okay. What is the weirdest? There's a lot of them. What is the weirdest Aussie slang term you actually use in your daily life?
In my daily life. Okay.
So many.
So there are so many. And I think with the slang terms, it's you just take for granted that people know what they are. So I did say one that I'll save that for another time. But the one that I'm going to say now is I used the word skerrick, which I didn't realise was an Australian slang term, but it is. It's skerrick. And the way, the context around using skerrick is that you just don't have a skerrick of space or a skerrick of time or a skerrick. It obviously means minuscule.
Yeah.
Close to zero.
Yeah.
So, and I used it when I said that I did not have a skerrick of space in our luggage.
Did not.
We did not. Going to all these different destinations every couple of days to these really remote locations with very small airports and very strict luggage control for a good reason.
Yes.
We've really struggled. So I have not had a skerrick of space in my luggage.
Well, because you've been buying a lot of postcards.
I have been buying a lot of postcards. I know. They take up a lot of room.
Yes.
Yeah. So skerrick.
They do. They do. Skerrick.
Skerrick.
That's definitely one I'm going to be bringing back home and using on my students, telling them they haven't done a skerrick of practice.
Perfect context.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yep. I think this one's fine.
This one, sorry. Okay. So your next question is, what's the most dangerous wildlife encounter you've had, and what is your bucket list wildlife encounter?
Well, I didn't feel in danger, but I think maybe the most dangerous was the tiger shark in the Barrier Reef area with the Torres Straits indigenous person.
Wow. Okay.
It was very cool. I was a little surprised at him because I didn't expect him to show up at breakfast that day. But yeah, I was working with a person in the Torres Straits who was dealing with some climate change impact to his community due to the flooding, rising floodwaters there.
Yeah.
And filming kind of his story. And so one morning he took me out in his little homemade kind of canoe boat thing.
Wow.
And we were snorkeling, or, he was free diving, of course, and I was snorkeling, and I was just, really caught up in capturing the reef and the beauty of the fact that it wasn't spoiled by tourism and, the fins that people kick the reef with. And there really wasn't a lot of bleaching. It was just a beautiful, beautiful reef. And I was capturing Nemo, found my little tomato clown. Yeah, it was beautiful. And then out of nowhere, I saw this shark, which didn't really scare me. I love sharks, actually. They're beautiful, misunderstood. And I saw the glimmer, the ripples of that tiger pattern. Yes. And I'd never seen a tiger, but I was pretty sure it was one. And he came closer and closer and closer. But he was coming to the indigenous person. And I guess they had a relationship. I guess they were buddies.
Wow.
And he came every day, so he said, to see him. He gave him a name. I can't remember it now, but we'll call him Fred.
Fred.
And so
Fred the tiger.
Fred comes. And and this indigenous person did this not weird, but really unique thing where he got him in almost a trance.
Wow.
And the tiger shark did this flip. I've never seen anything like this. He just did this motion with his hand right above where his nose and head was, and the tiger shark flipped upside down, and he was just like that. And I honestly think that might have been my most dangerous encounter, but yet I wasn't feeling in danger.
You were safe.
Yeah, but I can't even explain it. It was the coolest thing.
Just to witness something like that.
Yeah, I was kind of paralyzed. I couldn't really go anywhere. I was just whoa,
Amazing.
Never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Bucket list, I think. I am fortunate enough to have on my horizon a trip to the emperor penguins, which I'm so excited about. That is probably my lifelong dream to be able to capture the story of the emperor penguins, especially as they are experiencing challenges with their breeding cycle, with the sea level rise and the ice melt. Because the emperor chicks right now are having difficulty with sustainability. Actually, they actually give birth on the ice, right? And then their chicks have 2 to 3 months until their fur or their feathers is actually waterproofed. And so if the sea ice does not stay frozen for that period of time, the chicks can actually drown.
Oh God.
So so getting to actually capture what's going on with the emperor penguins, even though it could be very difficult to capture, is really important to me to get to capture that, because it's such just an animal that I've always just dreamt of being able to see.
How exciting.
It's exciting. It's exciting, but I want to do it right.
Yes.
Yeah. So I am doing a project in January, and
wow.
And then the whale shark, I want to be able to swim and capture it properly.
Yeah.
The whale shark, maybe
come back over to Oz.
In Ozlands. Yeah.
Come over and do it in
Ningala Reef.
Yeah.
That's where I want to go.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that will be my next one. Okay, have you ever been photobombed by an emu or kangaroo?
I have not been photobombed by either of them.
Disappointing.
It is disappointing. No, I haven't actually. They're both beautiful animals, and those animals are on the Australian emblem. So great question.
I noticed that.
To actually put both of them, in that question, but I haven't been photobombed. Yeah. So
and they're mobility challenged, aren't they? As far as
they are. I do believe they were both put on the emblem because neither of them has the capacity to move backwards. So
that's deep.
You have to fact check me on that one. I'm not quite sure how accurate that is, but that's what we were taught. So
is that why the kangaroo jumps into the road?
Possibly. Yeah. And of course there's probably too many roads, and it's that human intervention.
It is a human intervention.
Yeah, sadly.
I saw them all jumping into the road in the outback, and I was like, why?
Yeah. Well, I think
I felt bad for them.
Yeah. Well, when infrastructure comes through like that, it's a huge disruption to natural wildlife corridors. So and they don't know the difference. So we do try. We have a lot of things in Australia, but we sort of have rope tunnelling that goes above certain roads where we know that wildlife can actually access it and utilise it for safe crossing. Unfortunately, Aru, there's nothing really to prevent for them. Right. But we do what we can when we can, but it's not perfect. Yeah.
That's good though.
Yeah. So your next question is, what are 3 fun facts about you that no one knows?
Well, I don't know. Some people might know this. I don't know. It's kind of embarrassing, but I do use it with my students a lot when they are challenged with things, or I need to relate something to them to show them that I don't know something. Or, I don't know a lot of things, but when they're facing challenges, I say, I don't know how to ride a bike. And they look at me and they're like, what do you mean you don't know how to ride a bike? But because of my background as a performer and, performing professionally from 3.5, 4, I wasn't allowed to contact sports, couldn't do ice skating, I couldn't even have sleepovers. Everything was so different as a child because I was training as a performer. It was a very, very different life. So biking, not allowed. Okay. Wasn't allowed to do. So it just got to the point where I became an adult, and I was just like,
never got the chance to do it.
No, because you get to 21, 22 when I was finally kind of into my teaching career, and I was just like, God, I'm gonna look ridiculous trying to ride a bike.
No, when you come to Australia, we're gonna do it. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. So I would say that is a fun fact. I speak 3 languages.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty decent. Not maybe like as fluent as I should.
English, Spanish,
and French.
Okay.
Yeah, and Latin, but that's only from doing a lot of punishment outside of my house mistress's door in boarding school. I had to write a lot of Latin conjugations, but I could definitely read and speak in Latin to, I guess, the dead people.
Yeah,
which is really useful. Yeah. And I'm a certified scuba diver.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
There's a fun fact.
Excellent.
All right. So for you, what is the closest that you've ever gotten to an animal and thought, yeah, this was a mistake?
Okay. Gosh. I don't know that I have. Although when I was bushwalking recently in a wetland area, and I think again with climate change, snakes were coming out where you typically wouldn't find them in an area, but they're coming out for water for themselves for drinking. And I did nearly tread on a red belly black snake, and it was more frightened than I was.
Isn't that deadly?
They can be. They can. Oh, not necessarily. They're okay. Those ones, they're okay. But I think I scared the poor thing more than
it scared you.
Absolutely, and it scuttled away. It wasn't an intentional thing that I didn't intend to ambush this poor animal, this poor creature. But that's probably it. But I typically do try and really keep my distance and keep a healthy level of respect there with animals, which if you've got a really good guide, they'll often advise you, like as an example, the muskoxen we knew because we sort of researched it, but there's a 200-metre limit that you're allowed to get in proximity to them. And when you come a wild shark in Australia, there's a minimum of a 3-metre gap that you must leave between wild sharks.
Yeah.
So there are all of these, perimeters put around these animals for their safety.
Yeah, which I can see has to be there. Wow. Well, I don't think I'll be getting that close to any red-bellied snakes in Australia for sure.
No,
yeah.
Maybe not.
But I like your perspective on that.
Yeah, no, good. So, Yoa, this is an interesting one. What 2 songs play in your head when you're alone in an epic expedition shoot?
Epic. Well, probably I Will Survive.
Yeah. Maybe The Other Night too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lord, The Other Night. Yeah. I don't even think I was able to sing or think of any musical things.
No.
Sometimes I hear really beautiful orchestral arrangements in my head. Like sometimes the ones I like, because I write a lot of them for like my YouTube. And sometimes I'll hear like ideas in my head, and then it's kind of a weird thing. Like I'll hear like notes that I want to put together.
Oh, wow.
Or chords.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I know, it's kind of weird.
No,
and then I'll go in my notebook on my phone and just like type in random letters that I know will be the chords or the notes. But or I'll or I'll have like a song by Fleury or Ruel, 2 of my artists that I love to listen to. Yeah, or Tommy Prophet, he's a producer I like. Something very cinematic pop.
Yeah. Wow.
Probably. Yeah, it's kind of deep.
Sounds great.
Or actually, a lot of time I just listen to nature, and it's just sometimes it's that silence that I honestly crave.
Yeah,
because I don't have a lot of silence.
Yep, it's good for the soul.
It is good for the soul. So yeah, lots going on in my head. Yeah,
sounds good.
Okay, and then we have I think 2 more.
Yep,
and then we're gonna go to Rovaniemi tomorrow, and we'll be doing the rest of these.
Great.
I'm gonna have an Aussie accent by the time I leave. Okay.
I won't do that to you.
What's this one? Oh, what was the moment when you realized you wanted to be a photographer? That's a very deep question.
That is a deep question. Okay. So I remember when I was 16 and I had the opportunity to go on a trip with my mum around the world. And
that must have been epic.
It was an amazing trip for Mum and I, yeah. And I bought myself a Minolta underwater camera.
Oh, yeah.
Because the last stop before home was Hawaii, and I had never swum with turtles, and I was very keen to, and I wanted to capture an underwater shot with a turtle, which I managed to get. And this was a film camera, and this was, this is really back in the day. So, so that was amazing, and I just fell in love with it ever since. And I've been a hobbyist, and I've always really loved it, and that was probably the moment.
What kind of turtle was it?
It was a green sea turtle.
Oh.
Yeah, it was beautiful. But I remember, just sort of at that moment feeling that this was something that I really connected with. And then over the years, I've tried to do a few bits and pieces, and then now being on this trip with you, you've really allowed me to come along and learn so much, and I'm just so grateful for what you've given me with the trip and all of your
my pleasure.
Generosity of your knowledge, and it's been incredible. So thank you.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah.
It's funny you said that about the turtle, because I became a scuba diver because I was afraid of the ocean. And,
wow. And so you conquered it.
Yeah, I was, captain of my swim team because it was the only sport I could do, because I couldn't do contact sports. And then when I immigrated to the States and went to college, I realized scuba diving was a class that they had as an elective. And Julie, shout out to Julie, and she's my best friend. She and I both took the course together. We actually got accused of cheating because we got the same score. We were never cheating. Oh my goodness. But her and I both took diving, and we had our sea card test and everything. We took it together at Scuba Club of Palm Beach. But funny thing was, I think it was my first dive out, I was terrified. you know, but I was not going to let my fear of the dark water stop me. And I remember I was getting certified because I wanted to dive on my honeymoon, and Brian, he was already certified, and I was like, I'm not going to make him feel he couldn't dive.
Yeah.
And we were going to a resort that was all included with the diving, so I was getting it. I was getting that thing.
Yeah.
And so I remember jumping in terrified because I couldn't see what was in the water, and that's what really scared me, right? And the first dive I went on, I remember going down, and you have to acclimate, you know, your ears and everything to the pressure. And the dive instructor held my hand the whole way down. It was like a 60 foot. And I was acclimating fine. And I hit the bottom. And I opened my eyes. And the first thing I saw was a loggerhead.
Oh.
And do you know how many dives I went on after that? I never saw a turtle.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It is.
And that loggerhead was just kind of at the bottom. No, he was sitting at the bottom, just kind of like maybe sleeping or resting. And he gave me a peace that I can't explain. And from then on, I was just at home diving and just being in underwater. And that just kind of like, I don't know, just kind of gave me a absolute passion for just the underwater world, which I don't think I would have ever allowed myself to have otherwise.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Fun facts.
Yes. Great fun fact.
All right. And we got, I think, one last one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, it's mine.
I think so. Sorry.
I'm waiting for it. And it's like, it's my turn. Where is a place you really want to travel?
Oh, gosh. Okay. So the list is long and it's growing because I find the more that I'm traveling, the more places I find I want to go. So I think it is a problem. So I think one of them would definitely be Iceland, off what you've told me and what I've seen of your stunning photography. That's certainly a place that I'd love to go. I would love to go to Patagonia. That's another place I'd love to go. I'd love to do the Galapagos.
Oh yeah, the turtles there.
Yeah, and I'd also love to do Madagascar. That's another one too that I think would be really interesting.
Oh yeah.
For biodiversity. Costa Rica. Gosh, the list, like I said, the list is just growing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think with some of the things we have in the works, maybe.
Hopefully, yeah. We'll
stay tuned.
We'll get them off the bucket list.
Off the bucket list, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Your next one is, what is the strangest thing you've ever stepped in while photographing in the wild?
Well, I think it was a bunch of poo. Definitely a bunch of poo.
Yeah.
Probably in the Highlands in Scotland, Isle of Skye. I think it was in a cow field. That was this beautiful farmer's field, and it was full of hairy coo. Oh. You know, there are hairy cows that are the horns and the orange cows. And this farmer saw me early one morning photographing these cows, and he comes out, and I thought, oh Lord, I'm in trouble because I shouldn't be on the property. But I was kind of doing it from a respectful distance. And he's like, do you want to come in the cow field, love? I can't do it, but I was like,
bad.
It was pretty bad. But I was like, sure. And then he's like, come on then. And I was like, oh Lord. And then I stepped into this big pile of dung right there. Right. And that was just the start of the rest of the mess that I was going to be stepping into. The whole field was just mud. And I don't know if I could tell the difference between what was mud and poop. Yeah. But I had an epic time, you know. It's kind of like, you don't really care when you're photographing what you look like at the end of the day. You're going to look like, you got dragged through the back end of a bush, but it doesn't really matter because you're there to capture nature.
We're not in front of the camera.
We're not in front of the camera. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so I think that would be it.
Yeah.
So on that great note, we will finish the rest of these questions in was it Santa Claus Land? Rovaniemi.
So. Yeah.
So I have some more of my project down there with some of the national parks closer to Rovaniemi, which it took me a long time to say that word. Can you say that?
No, I'm not even going to try.
So we'll be at a place called the Arctic Treehouse, which should be epic. Yeah. I'm excited. And we'll finish them up there. So stay tuned.
See you there.
All right.